In her day, the racing sloop Janzoon was in a class of her own, the pride of the Pacific. She was also the pride and joy of her skipper, Russell Slade, the man who helped design and build this 42-foot beauty. Today, Russ is back on board Janzoon for the first time in around 20 years.
It's a beautiful boat to sail in. It's dry and it's comfortable, and she gets you there, and you can have the biggest seas in the world come aboard, and she's had big ones, and she just gets you through. Just beautiful.
With Russ are two trusty old shipmates, Rick Hammond and Dick Norman, who were aboard from the beginning and helped steer Janzoon to victory in many an ocean classic.
We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we were very, and still are, a very close bond between all of us. And I love the boat. I actually had my honeymoon on this boat, and so it's very, very dear to me.
At this reunion, all three were reliving past glories, the Sydney to Hobart race of 1963 in particular. It was a triumph for Janzoon and the crew. Second overall, first in their division. It was also the time of a dramatic rescue at sea, a rescue many described as a miracle. Early on the morning of Sunday, January the 13th, Janzoon was making her leisurely way back to Sydney after a gruelling race and an equally gruelling celebration in Hobart. The sloop was 35 kilometres off the southern New South Wales coast. Russ Slade was at the helm. Without warning, and to this day, without explanation, he felt a sudden impulse to change course.
I promptly wanted to bring the boat around on another tack. And there was a great scream from down below wanting to know why I wanted to do it. There was no sense in it. And I agreed with that, but there was some urge came within me that wanted to bring that boat around on the other tack.
Russell knew it was crazy, and his mates told him so, in no uncertain terms. They convinced him to put Janzoon back on course. But that lasted only about 5 minutes. The crazy impulse returned, and Russ Slade changed tack again. At the time, navigator Rick Hammond thought his skipper had finally snapped.
I can't really quite understand why he kept on doing it. It's just so extraordinary. And I think he said to me something like, I just had to do it, Rick, I just had to do it.
Dick Norman thought it was odd too, but didn't argue. He'd had the overnight watch and was desperately tired.
And I was sitting on the side of the boat, enjoying the sail and just glancing around, and all of a sudden something caught my attention out on the horizon. And I couldn't quite make out what it was. And anyway, I said to Slady, there's something out there on the horizon. And I said, he said, it's most really a fishing mark. And I said, something about it that doesn't look like a fishing mark to me. And we had the ocean to ourselves. There wasn't another boat in sight anywhere.
After Russell's aberration at the helm, Dick's sighting was too much for the rest of the crew. They put it down to a trick played by the ocean on a sailor's weary eyes. And with a word of advice for Dick, they set off again for Sydney.
You've been on deck too long and you've seen things. Go down and have a rest. And so, being a good lad, I took their advice and went down below, and I was lying on the bunk, and I was there for about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, and all of a sudden I jumped up to my feet, and I don't know why, and grabbed the binoculars off the chart table as I came by and went back on deck. Finally I thought, I think there's somebody waving, and I said to Russell, I think there's somebody waving, trying to attract our attention out there. And I was so determined that there was something wrong. What it was, I didn't really know. And Anyway, he took me seriously and he immediately said, righto, we'll pull the boat away and we'll go out and have a look.
It was quite a long way off. It was just visible. To make sure, Dick came and stood up here near the mast, got to a higher altitude in the boat, and with his glasses said, yes, it's, I think, a dinghy or something.
As Jan Zoon got closer, the dinghy and its occupants became clearer. Now, it wasn't just a matter of seeing things. It was a matter of life and death, literally.
And there were two boys, that little dinghy. The side of the boat from the bow was smashed in. I remember it very well because there was a red rock cod in the back. One fish, one oar, and two young boys. I'd say 14 maximum and 11.
Two inexperienced boys who should never have been out in the open sea. Early that morning, without telling anyone, they'd gone fishing just off the beach. Their 9-foot dinghy was caught in a treacherous current, which swept them kilometres out to sea. They had no fresh water, no food, and no hope of rescue, until the remarkable appearance of Jan Zoon.
They were in total shock. I think it was the first time I'd ever seen people in total shock. I've seen people in fire accidents and in car accidents, and they're in shock, but never like this. We can all imagine their ordeal when we passed them, say 2 miles off. They frantically waved. No chance of being rescued. And we passed them. That must go very close to total shock.
They were so far out at sea, they couldn't swim ashore. There was no other boat in the vicinity. Nobody knew that they were there. And it was just one of those, and they wouldn't have hit the coastline because they were in the southerly set and they would have been taken way down the coast. So there was no chance of them of a survival for them if we hadn't have been there. So it was just one of those miraculous things that happened.
Remember, it all began when Russell Slade, against all his better judgment, all his experience, changed tack. Not once, but twice.
Coming round unnecessarily, sailing past them, Dick coming up on deck for no reason at all, sighting them quite unexpectedly. That was not an easy thing. It's a big ocean out there.
After the rescue, Jan Zoon's crew took the boys to shore, where they were reunited with their families. Newspaper reports at the time said they were none the worse for their ordeal, just exhausted, cold and wet, and very, very lucky.
Would have been just one of those unsolved mysteries. 2 young kids from the country, you know, just disappearing. And I think it all hit home to us too, and that's one of the reasons why we don't speak about it very much, but we often always think about it. And we think of those 2 young blokes, and we just hope that later on in life that they've realised their experiences and it's helped them in some way.
To this day, Jan Zoon's crew have never seen the pair again, nor heard a word from them.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just locate those 2 men? They'd be 40 odd and 43. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know what happened? It would be lovely to just meet them aboard here for 10 minutes, wouldn't it?